Hello and welcome to Mission Nonprofit. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Robert Kim, your host, and this month we have a special guest on the program. Every month we feature a local nonprofit organization from Thurston County, and this month we have the Capital City Council of the Blind. And with me to talk about the Capital City Council of the Blind is Denise Colley and Burl Colley. Welcome to Mission Nonprofit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
So the Capital City Coalition of the, Council of the Blind is a group for people that have low vision or blindness or just impairment with sight. And you guys are an advocacy group that helps get things like audible traffic signals out there in our world so that you can get around. Tell me, how long has this organization been around, the local chapter?
We were certified in the state organization in October of 1990. We actually started in May of 1990 down at the Olympia Community Center, and then we were accepted into the state organization, and we have been involved ever since. We've never had any breaks in our service or anything. So it's been about not quite 26 years, coming up on 26 years.
And you are a chapter of the Washington Council of the Blind, is that what it's called?
Yes, we're an affiliate of the Washington Council of the Blind, yeah.
But also the national, what is the national one called?
That's the American Council of the Blind.
American Council of the Blind, okay. And that one's been around since 1961, is that what it was?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, and Denise, you are a former president.
I am.
And so what was it like being a president of the organization?
Well, actually, I've been president on both the chapter level, local level, and on the state level. And being chapter president is always kind of interesting because, you know, the group sort of, depending on what the composition of the membership is at any given time, and the interest areas of the membership can go a lot of different directions. We are really a grassroots advocacy organization, which means that you know, we're just volunteers, and all of the things that we do, the service projects that we work on and the things that we do are all done primarily by volunteers. And it's not only blind and low vision folks, but it's also our members are comprised of the sighted population who may be relatives of a blind person, a spouse of a blind person, or may just be somebody who has an interest in blindness and low vision and wants to become a member.
So people that are affected by blindness, but outside of being blind themselves, they're a family member, their son or daughter, and they come to you guys for, you know, just support. And you probably meet some friends this way, yeah? Is it a good way to network with, you know?
It's a great way to network. I would say that on the local level, we currently have a membership of about 38 people. And then there are 14 local chapters around the state. And they're all somewhat different from each other, depending on some of the chapters. Most of their membership are older blind folks, and so the activities and the things that they focus on are more geared to your elderly population. Then we have some chapters that are made up of a younger population, maybe more working age folks, and so the things that they focus on are geared more to the interests of that population and the needs of that population. And then we have what's called a special interest affiliate. That is our guide dog users of Washington State. And it's made up of members who either have guide dogs and use guide dogs or are friends or family of people who have or use guide dogs. And so,
Or raisers also.
Oh yeah, and puppy raisers also, who are raising puppies to become, who are socializing the puppies to become guide dogs. So it's pretty well, you know, we try to reach out to all populations, and we try to look at the interests of, you know, all of the different populations and different age groups.
And the national organization is made up of affiliates from most of the states and around, and then we have at-large members who may not belong to a state affiliate, but then they also can be from other countries too.
One of the things that you guys do, I guess it's the chapter, but maybe the national organization does it too, but it's scholarships. You have scholarships you give out to people that have a sighted handicap of some kind. And those are for students that are going to any college,
college in the
anywhere
country.
across the country.
Yeah, in Washington, we have a statewide scholarship program. We give anywhere from 5 to 8 or 9 scholarships a year. And the scholarships, we usually give out anywhere from $18,000 to $20,000 a year. Our scholarships are awarded at our convention, at the banquet of our state convention, which is held in October or November of each year. And the students have to be Washington State residents, but they can be attending any college or university. And we will, with the scholarships, assist with tuition, purchase of books and supplies, assistive technology. A lot of students use their scholarships for purchasing assistive technology that they're going to need, special like magnification aids, audio screen readers, those kinds of things that they might not have the money to purchase. We essentially supplement what they get if they are what are called customers of the Department of Services for the Blind, which is a statewide vocational rehabilitation agency that helps to get training and education for students and get them into competitive employment. On the national level, we give about 16 to 18 scholarships, ranging in about the $34,000, $35,000 amount total. Our national convention is in July, and again, the scholarships are awarded at the convention. And those are a little different. You don't necessarily, we have particular requirements for different scholarships. Like we have a couple of scholarships where you have to be going into business or into technology of some kind. We have a couple scholarships where you have to be going into some kind of advocacy field or rehabilitation field. We have one scholarship where you have to be working full-time and going to school. So it depends on who's sponsoring those scholarships as to what their requirements are.
Locally, we give 50% of the money that we raise through our fundraising activities to the state to give their scholarship awards.
Okay. And then you touched on something. You talked about how there are other organizations here to help visually impaired people. And one of them you mentioned was the Department of Services for the Blind. And that's a state organization.
It's a statewide organization.
State agency, actually.
Yeah, it's an
okay,
agency.
state agency.
State agency, separate state agency. And their purpose, they do a lot of different things, but they primarily are, they work with families to help families who may have children who are blind and low vision, to help get them hooked up into resources, provide some supports to those families. The biggest thing that they do is what's called the vocational rehabilitation program, which is job training, job development, and placement into competitive employment. They not only help the customers get employed, but do a lot of follow-up kinds of services to ensure that they go in and they do an evaluation of the work site to determine what kinds of technology is going to be needed on the work site so the person is going to be able to do the job competitively. Then we have our what's called our business enterprise program, which is our cafeterias and like food stands and things like that that are in your federal buildings, where vendors who are blind get first priority to bid on those sites. And the person is learning how to essentially do restaurant work and run a business. And then they have what's called an independent living older blind program, where they have rehabilitation teachers who come out and teach folks who are losing their vision later in life basic cane travel mobility skills, how to navigate around their home, how to work with their stove and their oven and their washing machine and all of the appliances to make them safe, in their home environment.
The business enterprise program, that's what the lady that you've been talking with, Robert, Gloria Walling, that's what she does. She has a cafeteria up in Tacoma.
Oh, nice. I just want to say your website right now, since we've been talking about this and maybe people want to look you up, and that is cccbinfo.org.
Right.
And it's under construction now, but maybe by the time this show comes out, you'll have a little bit more done.
It's under construction, but there is quite a bit up there in terms of finding out what's available. And we really not only try to put our local activities, a calendar of our events, but we also are trying to, it kind of did a switch over is what happened, and so we're trying to get it updated with state and local and national resources, blindness-related resources, links to our state agencies for the blind and other entities that would be able to provide useful services.
Yeah, our meeting schedule and some of our activities, like our summer picnic and our winter Christmas party, those are up there on that webpage.
Oh, yeah. So if people want to come to your picnic, which is this summer, August 27th at
Yes.
LBA Park.
August 27th at LBA Park. It's from noon until about 4. The chapter provides, well, every year we do different things, but it's usually we provide the chicken and the beverages, and then people bring other dishes to supplement. And we have a potluck, and then we play games. We do a lot of trivia kinds of things and other kinds of games. And then in December, the first Saturday in December, we have a Christmas party gift exchange at a local restaurant. We have been holding it at Panorama at what was Chambers Restaurant. It's now called 1751 Restaurant and Bistro because it went under a major reconstruction. We have our dinner there, and then we have a gift exchange, and we really encourage our members to invite friends to those events because they are, sort of our fun things. We also do a pizza party every year for our members at a different pizza place. This year, our pizza party is the 23rd of April at Casa Mia downtown. And so we try to do fun social things too. We've done movie nights or movie days where somebody who has the audio description movies, where they have the narration track on movies to get narration of what's going on, in between the dialogue. We will invite everybody over and show a movie or two. And so we try to do, along with the advocacy that we do and the legislative activities that we work on, we also try to do, fun stuff too. And we try to gear our fun stuff to different kinds of activities because not everybody wants to do the same thing. So, we try to do a variety of things that we will invite our members to. And
that's one of the things we didn't talk about, Robert, when we were going over things earlier, is that the local theaters up in the Capitol Mall, is that still Capitol Mall, Westfield? Anyway.
Right, yeah, Westfield Mall.
Up in the west side and out in Lacey at the Regal Theaters, they are showing now around 70 to 80% of their movies have a soundtrack that's a descriptive track on it. And so people go in and they get headsets. And those headsets have two settings. One for V, which is for the audio description, and then there's a setting as H, which people can go in, and that's enhanced hearing for people who have a low hearing.
Oh. That's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I never knew how, visually impaired people would watch movies. That's interesting. It kind of makes me think, well, you can need to bring back the audio dramas from back in the day. Radio dramas.
They do that.
Yeah, those are great.
It's-
Radio dramas are neat. You can listen to them in the car.
Yeah, it's essentially the second audio track is what it is. And normally what happens is if a movie doesn't have the audio description to it, then it's usually the Spanish language channel.
Oh, yeah.
But essentially what it is that they have people who actually write the narrative for the audio descriptive tract, and then a professional narrator does the actual narration. And I've often had people say, well, doesn't that get in the way of the movie dialogue or the television program dialogue? And no, they fit it in so that that description is happening when there's music playing or some kind of action that doesn't have the audio, and it doesn't have dialogue, going with it. So it's not detracting from what you're listening to in the movie, but it enhances your enjoyment of the movie because you know what somebody's doing, or you know what the expression is on their face, or if they're doing something particular like reading a letter or whatever, those kinds of things. And then the other really cool thing about it is that we always used to miss out on the credits, at the beginning or the end of the movie. We never knew if you didn't know really who was starring and who had the various parts, and you get to hear all those things because all of those things now are read.
And it probably just depends on the narrator, because, if it was like Morgan Freeman, I think that would be even better than watching the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Morgan Freeman's voice telling your story.
Yeah,
Hey,
that'd be nice.
That's even better. I'd sign up for that. Anyway, so what are some of the, kind of obstacles that could make things better for visually impaired people? What are we doing right? And what do we still need to do? Because I know you're the advocacy organization here in Olympia, and you're working on some of these things. What are some of your goals, maybe, and what are some of your accomplishments?
One of the areas that we need to do more work on locally is the emergency preparedness. We have done some at the state level. Denise was on a statewide committee to look at emergency preparedness, and that didn't go too far as accessibility is concerned. But locally, when you have emergency preparedness, they usually say, just go on down to a local church or local community center, and that will be where you want to stay for a while. The problem is that if you have, say, an earthquake or some kind of huge windstorm, and you've got trees or power lines or those kinds of things down, you don't necessarily want to walk over to your church, and you can't drive. So we've got to work out some solutions. That one of the local things that they were going to do is set up the inner city transit drivers, because they all drive the routes that go by the most house. The problem is that they got the same problem. Their buses can't get past
snow?
this.
Yeah, I mean, what if it's a blizzard?
Yeah.
You don't want to get out and walk.
That's right. So that's one of the things we need to do. But we have a number of things that we have done locally. I think most of your watchers probably have seen the audible signals in downtown Olympia and in Lacey and now in Tumwater. So that's one of the things that we were directly involved with, getting the community things set up with those, and our voting access. We've been involved in that for 8 or 9 years, ever since the HAVA Act.
Since the passage of the Help America Vote Act, which was a federal law that required communities to have accessible polling sites if they actually had polling sites, to have accessible voting machines that could be used not just by people who are blind or visually impaired, because we really try to encourage people to, if you're somebody who maybe doesn't have, your English as a second language, using the voting machine as opposed to reading the paper ballot might work better for you.
That doesn't have hands.
Right.
Somebody that
Absolutely.
can't do that, the AutoMark, that's the machine you're
The
talking about.
AutoMark is the machine. There were 4 different machines that came out at the time the law was passed, and Thurston County opted to choose the AutoMark, which is a machine that you insert your ballot and you make your choices. The machine reads to you audibly what is on the ballot, what the candidate, who the candidates are, or what the issue is, and then by pushing different buttons, you cast your vote. And then at the end, it tells you when you're at the end, and you can go back and you can listen to everything, all your selections to make sure that they were exactly what you wanted, and then it prints out the ballot. And for me, that was probably one of the biggest accomplishments that I felt we were involved with, because prior to that, we always had to, when we had polling places, you would go into the polling place, but then we had to have somebody from the Republican Party and somebody from the Democratic Party in the polling place, the little booth, with us to make sure that it was being done correctly.
Goodness.
And then we went to vote by mail. We had to have somebody else read and fill out the ballot. Well, I didn't always want him to know how I voted,
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
vice versa.
voting is supposed to be private.
To be able to vote privately and independently, I think has been a major accomplishment. And in Thurston County, we have had a really good voting accessibility committee. We've been able to do a lot of different things. Now, if you go up to the auditor's website during election time, they have the local voters pamphlet up there, both on the website in HTML, PDF, but also it's a Word document, so somebody can download it and use an accessible screen reader, which is software that reads the print that's up there on your computer screen, or they also have somebody actually read it so it's audible, so people can go in. And they also had it done in sign language. And so we've been really pleased about what we've been able to do with our county. Some of the counties have not had as much success, but we've been pretty lucky. We've had some really good people to work with in doing this. Probably another really good example of what we've been able to do, and while we weren't directly involved, we did have a lot of input, was that now if you get onto an intercity transit bus, you will notice that it has a call stop feature where stops are called out as the GPS, as the bus gets to them, or just before the bus gets to them. So you know where you're going, and you don't have to rely on the driver to remind you. And we were able to be instrumental in having input into that system, and also to get the transit schedules put in Braille, on audio tape, and in large print. So if somebody needs the bus schedule in an alternate format, they can call Intercity Transit customer service and get that schedule. So that's another thing that we're really proud of that we were able to do in this county.
All great things. So you've got the Thurston County Auditor and that AutoMark, and they think they may have more than one of those in the county. Yeah. And then you've got the Intercity Transit doing great things. So with how they talk out and they say, "You're now at Harrison and Division," that kind of thing. And then what was the other guys? You were talking about the stoplights, those ones that talk to you and say you can now cross, or what they say, like something like, Harrison is now open, or you can cross Harrison.
It'll say crossing Harrison and Division, or it'll tell you to wait.
Or it says crossing Harrison at Division, or something like that.
So you know where you are, and the ones that we are working with the municipalities to get in are the ones that most people, when they think of audio signals, think of the birds, the chirps, and the cuckoos.
Chirp, but those aren't as good.
Those are not real good.
You need the talking person to tell you where you are.
Yeah, they need the speech, and also what those signals do is they give you a pathing signal across the street so that you know that you're not veering out into the intersection, that you're actually going, in a fairly straight line across the street. Because one of the things that you know, in all their infinite wisdom, they did was when they put in the wheelchair ramps, and a lot of communities have done this, they put in wheelchair ramps, but what happens is if you cross the street at the wheelchair ramp, it shoots you right out into the middle of the intersection half the time. So
Well, that's why you have the bumps now, right?
So they're
yellow bumps
yeah,
tell you that you're going off the curb?
they're
That isn't necessarily what helps you. What helps you is when now the current specifications for wheelchair ramps says you need to have them going into the crosswalk, which means they need to have 2 ramps on each corner.
Yeah, yeah.
Which in a lot of cities cut costs by
just do it
putting
right in the
one right
diagonal.
at the diagonal, and, and I've done that.
Oh, and then you're going diagonally across the
Yeah,
street.
I'm going to the middle of the intersection and get
not
out of
safe.
here.
Well, yeah, that must be scary to just take the word for it of that. song.
Interesting story. When we used to have the old voting system, and so you would go to your polling place, and they'd say, "Okay, you need to wait till we get some people freed up, so you have your Democratic one and your Republican one, and eventually you get to go in your booth, right?" The people who volunteered for the parties oftentimes were ladies. I never did run across a man, but ladies who volunteered, right? And so they were middle-aged ladies and usually had a little extra cellulose. And so you would get in these little booths and you have the 3 of you squeezing in this booth, right? I never did understand why
This
they
is
didn't
when
have...
you had the Republican and the Democrat
Yeah.
with you to check the voting?
Yeah, and so I never understood why they didn't have 20-year-old women instead of... But anyway, never got that. And so the party that you're registered with, she would read the ballot and the other would verify that it was being marked correctly.
Okay.
This was 1972, I go way back, and I wanted to vote for Henry Jackson, which was a write-in candidate at that point. And so the lady who was reading it, she goes over and she yells at the poll manager that he wants to have a write-in. And so then the guy from the other side of the room says, "Well, who does he want to write in?"
Oh my
I mean,
God.
the privacy
That's
element is gone.
Yeah.
And so finally, they got the authorization to do that. I thought, like, we need to get in the middle of in a circle, and I'll just tell everybody who I'm voting for. But that was kind of the things you had to put up with.
Post it on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
Somebody record my vote. Anyway, we do have to wrap it up now, unfortunately. We could keep talking here. But let's say the website again, which is www.cccbinfo.org. And did you have a phone number as well that you wanted to say?
We have a phone number that you can call, and really quickly before I give it, I just want to say that one of the things we also do is that we can just be a support. So if you are somebody who has a parent that's losing their vision, or you yourself are losing your vision, or you are a parent of a child who's losing their vision, we can help hook you up to resources, and we can sort of be there to answer questions. Our phone number, unfortunately, it is not a toll-free number. We weren't able to get that, but the number is 818-600-1119, and our email address is Capital City Council of the Blind, all one word, @gmail.com, and the C on capital is uppercase.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. I'm Robert Kam. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you know of a local nonprofit organization that's making a difference in our community, give us a call at 956-3100 extension 103 or send an email to rkam@tctv.net.